So, what I did on over the break, just so you guys, don't like what the hell happened. All I did is add this little shadow.
Oh yeah.
So, I'm trying to. I'm trying to get some shadow in here as well as light. Oh no!
Oh, you need to.
Reset Photoshop. Yeah. Oh, it works. There you go. Okay. Oh, there's like a special button on here I'm noticing that like when you put your, never mind, I'm not going to get into it. Your wrist on the Intuos pad does something weird.
Oh, yep, I
Yeah. Cool. Alright. Alright, so just pushing, pulling things. He doesn't have any eyebrows yet, and concerns me. He's going to look like Whoopi Goldberg. And another thing that's missing too is that you notice there's no core shadow. It's partly because all I did was light it. I didn't go back and hit the darks. So I'm gonna try to get some core shadow in here.
Everyone remember that from observational drawing? Core shadow.
You guys supposed to say yes to that. Wow. Did the microphone pick that up? Core shadow, he said. Alright. So core shadow. Just trying to round out the form more or less. That'll round it out a little bit more. It's not perfect yet. It takes a lot. I'm gonna see if I can.
Run on this, like on the outside of that scar, should it run over?
The core shadow is wherever the light is not hitting directly. So it shouldn't. The scar is almost almost being hit perpendicular to the light, so it's going to be lit pretty hard. So yeah, hope that answers your question. And off to this side is obviously the ambient lighting, which seems a little bright now, but so I'm going to try to get some color in here and then go back and detail him more, because right now he's missing color. And I'm going to, I think I duplicated that layer, flatten it. The design still needs help because he looks pretty much like a dude with some stuff happening to his face. And he's got this kind of cool pronounced chin. I don't know if I want to keep that or not. But it's a little unrealistic looking right now. Yeah, I was thinking that. Oh, yeah. I think he just entered my fantasies. Jay Leno in drag. God damn. Alright. What I'm doing now is just smudging some of the stuff, because I'm trying to get it away from smudging some of these lines, trying to get it away from being painterly and trying to take it a little bit more into realism. And realism has lots of soft edges and very few hard edges. I like some of the hard edges. They kind of work, but other ones don't. Pulling some of the light into these crevices. Creating a little noise with the smudge brush here. Oh, shoot. Trying to fill in some areas that have odd lighting. Another thing is what people don't tend to do, and they should. This really has to do with intense observation. Is get the fillets, kind of like what I was showing you with the eye here. There's also fillets in other areas, like where muscle comes together. If you ever look at buff guys, or skin comes together here. Get a nice. Yeah, I think it's going to be time soon to take this to a bit more intense color, because right now the color is really bothering me. Nose. Alright, let me drop some real color in here. This is kind of confusing right now. So those are the changes I made. So let's see. Actually, let me take this whole thing and adjust the color on it. See what that looks like. It's kind of cool. There's another way too, which is painting the color in. Let's start off with like a grayish blue. Yeah. Music? Yeah. I really have shitty choice in music. You guys are gonna laugh at me when I tell you what it is. It's like I like Maxwell and George Michael and just lame shit you guys probably wouldn't like. Like I'm not really like I have all the guys at work listen to like, you know, heavy metal and shit, and I want to work for me is intense, so I want to relax. So I go the opposite way. So everybody else is like, oh, you got the new heavy metal album, the Linkin Park, this, that, and the other, and I like the shit. I'm trying to like, you know, go to that nice place, not the angry place. So whenever I bring up my musical choices, I mean, everybody at work freaking hates me. I get stoned. I think both. Relaxation is better on a consistent basis, and chaos is better on a not so consistent basis, because it's chaos just being at work sometimes. So I don't want to increase that. I don't, you know, if I was listening to angry music all the time, I'd one day walk in with an M16, and probably don't want that. Yeah, I'll let them do that. So basically, I just tossed a little bit of a bluer light on there. I don't know if I'll keep it yet or not. I'm just going to see what happens. One thing you guys should know to do, let me just back up a little bit. So, do you guys know about skin tones, like general skin tone? You do? So where like, if you read any of Sig Mead's books, you get red around these areas: the nose, the eyes, the ears, the mouth. This is for a regular human. This guy's a little greener, so not going to be quite the same. But and then for men who have, especially, you know, if you're seeing any kind of shadow, like 5 o'clock shadow, it gets a little bluer down in the face. Like, and this is, you can probably barely see this up there, but it's slightly bluer down there, and he has a green skin color, which doesn't help. And then towards the top of the head, you tend to get more of a yellowish color and over-exaggerated, but we'll erase some of that back. Especially when you're talking about a natural light, which is more yellowy to begin with. And I think the only thing that's really paying off in this particular painting is the red. So I'm going to kind of subtly add that. What I'm doing right now is erasing away from it because I think there's too much. I want him to feel kind of deadish, but at the same time, I want his skin to have some small level of vitality since he is alive still. And I think the reason why I'm adding red towards the bottom of his face, which he usually wouldn't, is because he's got so much blue down there to begin with. It's hard to see. So you can kind of see where I was before. I don't know if that's showing up very well up there, but it's a little bit of vitality in the skin. And that's all I want. I don't want to, you know, force that on the viewer. I just want them to see slight, subtle skin tone changes. And so that's the first thing. The next thing is that you just, in any painting, you want to have hue variations, color variations across the entire painting. And I mean like crazy colors. Like let's do hot pink. Let's do red. Let's do blue. And let's take this layer. I'll just duplicate it a few times just to get a nice little pattern going on randomly. And it's done. What do you think?
He got his party balloon.
Alright, so what you do here is you find something that's going to mix well with it in a prideful way. Ooh. Did you guys get that joke? No, I didn't. Alright, never mind. Oh, Santosh tablet. You're my friend. Alright, so I think this is going to mix probably the best when I decrease the opacity on it. Let's just do that now. And what I'm doing, you can probably not see up there. Can you? No? You can't. Which is not necessarily too bad, because you don't want this to be...
How much did you decrease the opacity?
it's like 3%.
Okay.
So you can see it here, but that's all I want. I just want a little bit of... Because you see how it's not flat anymore, but now here it's like a flat color. So that's all I want. And what I'm eventually do is probably bring some more noise, boost that up even more later on.
Here's as much when you're missing.
Cool.
So you just literally put down random colors to make that happen? Or did
Yeah,
you
I
have
mean
some
here's when I bring
I
it
saw
to...
the colors, I mean, I didn't know whether you had a plan for them or not.
That's their plan.
Wow.
They're serving a purpose. So all I'm doing is just changing up the hue a little bit. So
Can't see it on this one.
yeah. So yeah, so it just moves it around, makes the picture a bit more, infuses it with a bit more vitality. So flatten that, and then I'll probably use those colors somewhere else. Cool.
More down? Oh, that's right.
What I'm going to do now is increase the noise level to... So I'm going to use this noise for two things, for texture and for hue variation. So I have this brush which looks exactly like that in black and white. I just made that on my own because I wanted like a reptilian brush, and I use it almost all the time.
Cool.
So I do this, and I change my layer blending to something. So you can see here, I kind of like this already, that when you get close to his face, you can see this detail. You guys see that? That's that subtle stuff is really what pays off. Like I don't care what reads out here. This is meant to be seen large. So let's see if we can boost it up just a little bit more. Like here might be cool even too if we drop
So do
it
you just
down.
go through all these layer styles until you find one that works for you?
Basically, that's my version of experimentation. Is
You don't really know exactly.
I
what
don't know exactly what it's going. Well, sometimes you think you're going to get certain results, but the color you chose that's on top of the color that's under, underneath it, it doesn't work as well. So you're not always certain what's going to happen.
So you just cycle through.
Yeah, just cycle through.
And just see what you want.
So I like the level of detail here, and I like the kind of color it's adding to it. And you can see now that this is kind of. So let's see what we started with. We started with a very flat color, green. Started to get some core shadow, some realism. We added a little bit of hue variation, and on top of that, now we're adding a texture. And you can even go further and paint on top of that, which is what I'm going to do now. So I like the texture that this is adding, and I might even use that to help me dictate some lighting. Like if I like, can you see? I can. If I decide that I like these scales, and I want to use that as something that helps to define him more. Like maybe I'll, hit that with a light or something on the side. But I don't know. I probably won't do that because he doesn't necessarily have to be a reptile, but it could be just more of a texture. Well, you can kind of start to get this reptilian skin if you light it, and you can, push it back a little bit if you don't think that that's really what you want. A little bit of variation, but anyways. So, more or less, this is what I do when I'm coloring something. It's from this point on, it's repetition. And when I say repetition, it's repetition and also rhythm. You guys familiar with the term rhythm when it comes to design? Do you guys know why rhythm is important? Rhythm is important because, especially when you have a focal point on something, it gets you takes your eye from the focal point to other places on the design, and it also helps just in general flow. So you see how we did this cut across his cheek? That's kind of flowing with this core shadow, and it's flowing with his cheekbone. So I didn't want to do just a random cut across his face, like zigzag, 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 like that. That wouldn't have worked quite as well. But I wanted to keep within the rhythm, and I also want like these wrinkles around his eye. I want those to help bring out the flow even further, the rhythm that I'm trying to create. And if it's okay to kind of cross that rhythm in certain points, but you want to have a very dominant kind of rhythm that kind of takes you from one area to the next. And in this case, maybe it's leading you into the eye and then back down the face where the mouth is. Maybe I'll put some highlights around where the mouth are, and so on and so forth. So let me bring out the lips because they look like they're lacking right now. Since this, I'm trying to figure out how I want to light it, because the top part of the bottom lip is not hitting, is directly away from the light, and want to kind of make that darker because of that. And then probably slightly light the underside of on this area anyways, the underside of the top lip. Another thing too you want to think about are the landmarks on the face. What tends to be the most strongly lit and what tends to be the most pushed back into darkness? And usually on the face, it's this corner of the mouth. It's the areas in the eye, like the underside of the eyelid here, the underside of the brow usually, especially if you're getting lighting from the top. In this case, you're not. The crevice inside of the nose, the edge on this back side of the nose. So those are the key areas that you always want to look at when you're lighting. And you wouldn't normally think that lighting is that important when you're making something, making a character, but if you want to do something realistic, the better you know lighting, the better off your image is going to be. These were all hard lessons for me to learn. I just wanted to draw cool shit. I didn't want to think about the rest. A little bit of noise underneath the lip. Maybe some wrinkles that are still catching the lighting. Another thing is, another design element you want to think about too is asymmetry. You see how these wrinkles look exactly alike? Let's break that up. Let's make one slightly larger than the other ones or something like that. That leads me into another design topic, which is whenever you're making something that whenever you're making a design that has 3 elements that are the same, you need to stop and redo it. Because let's take, for example, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but you got a guy. And you give him horns. And you give his shoulder horns. And you give him horns again. Now you don't even know what is important. You can't really tell what that silhouette is anymore. You can barely tell what that silhouette is here. You can kind of see the roundness of the head, but you totally lose that when you have a third version of that. And for some reason, as soon as you hit the number 3, it's a no-go, because those 3 shapes are exactly the same. That pattern breaks your design, because it just causes more confusion than it does add to the design. So whenever you have 3 things that are sized the same way and they're exactly the same shape, you want to rethink that. I think his nose is a little too regular. I mean, I wonder if I could, like, what would happen if I did something like this? Yeah, don't be afraid to push it around. I mean, you just make another layer. Photoshop is forgiving. Make another layer and just do it. See what happens. And I think that actually works a lot better with this snarl, because before the nose wasn't pulling up enough from that snarl. It was just kind of like regular nose with wrinkles. So now you kind of get that. Excellent. Alright. Alright, and this bottom edge of the nose you're going to hit. And then you're going to probably get some kind of cast shadow on this side, or even though you're kind of going into the ambient light, which is going to diffuse that cast shadow. Edges around the nose, those hard creases, you kind of want to bring those out because light won't get in there. Reflected light won't get in there. And see how this side of the nose looks really flat? Let's kind of round it out by putting a gradient across it. And I can't really tell what the top edge of the nostril is yet, so I need to define that. It's got a thin, odd looking nostril, which is kind of cool. Can you even put bumps in it or something? Yeah, whatever. And I'll go back. I like it. One thing I wanted to do, since I've got something here, I wanted to try that, I wanted to try the idea of putting the glowing stuff around his mouth and see if that can work. So it might be cool. I wonder, yeah, let me see something. What I'm going to do on the separate layer is orange. Should be as exact as possible. I want him to have I want this to kind of show his specialty or what he's all about, and so I think that this might help if I can pull this off right. So if I take that, and this could even go underneath his chin. Take that, turn that into color dodge. Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for. And then do this, break up the light a little bit, so it feels like little, I'm basically erasing out. I want to put more emphasis on this one than I do the top part. I think he can have tattoos, but I want this one to be the glowing one. So I'm just erasing back some of that stuff. And I'm going to show you as many Photoshop cool tricks and filters as I can without being too over the top filtery. So there's that. You can even tone it down a little bit if it's too much. I think this is a little too much because takes you away from the face and the eye, kind of like that. But I want to bring some of that back. So how do I want to do that? Do you guys know about adjustment layers?
Yeah.
Alright. Curves. So here's something I do. Get the curve to be just right. And then I fill that in with black because I want to paint with white. Want like little edges to glow more so than other pieces. I'll just go back and forth and erase until I get something I like. Yeah. It's a little too broken, but I'll erase some of that back. Let's see if this is working. Yeah, it's alright. It's kind of working. I want to use this to do something else though. You get a hard brush. I'm going to give him a third light. So round him off a little bit. I think what's happening is that it's not punching enough with that light. this side. I might have to go and color it a little bit. See something? Yeah, not sure yet. What do you guys think of that? The light. What would the design? It could be that friggin' collar around his neck. Could be a little too literal. Let me see something. That's less Native American, definitely. Collar or no collar? No collar? What if I... There. Let me start with nothing again, and if we decide you need something, we'll add it. One thing, the scar isn't colored at all. Should bring some interest over there, since that's a major part of his story. How he became who he is. So just painting pink on top of it. Overlay layer is the only layer I know, kind of know what's gonna happen as I burp. So now the scar has a little bit more interest, and not just that, but scars tend to be a little bit pinker than the rest of the skin. Bring some of that into the nose. The nose looks too wet, but whatever. Keep that. Just kind of throwing some color down there. That flatness looks nasty. I think what I'm going to do is create another layer. Turn all these ones off. Just this is a good point in time for me to merge visible. What's cool about this is I can erase away from it if I don't like it and just have my original drawing underneath. I feel like he needs something else. I don't know. He's just kind of piercing in the nose, or
From his nose to his mouth.
From his nose to his mouth. How about let's play with it. 'Cause I don't want him to feel too aborigine or jungle man, but I want it to feel kind of appropriate. I mean, there's that, which is overdone.
How about, like, a series of piercings going down the middle of his forehead to his nose?
Let's see. Yeah.
How about a
Kind of
clamp
interesting.
over the bridge of his nose?
Clamp over the bridge of his nose?
Like a long piece of metal that you, just like a clamp over the
It's kind of cool. I wonder what we can do, like if we had some kind of design on his face or something, that almost like a tiara, but more of like an evil tiara or something. Is that too much?
Like connecting his eyes to something like that. It looks like the really pink part of
What were you saying?
oh,
That one,
like the design that would come into the pit of his eye.
Ron did.
guys think of this? Too weird?
Exhausting.
North
Looks
Pole.
like Jesus Christ, I can do
The idea is
Yeah,
It's neat.
I think there needs to be something up here, but I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'll save that one. There's a layer.
Rivets going across the forehead.
Rivets. You already told me earlier I look too much like Ferguson.
What about a unicorn?
Oh my goodness.
Little Diablo.
Oh, some eyebrows.
See, this is a point in time you'd probably want to look at like an animal and figure out if there's a cool.
Rivets, going horizontal, you have both sides of
It's like in Pixar from
Like this?
from
No, we're not.
Aerospace.
Oh,
Ever flat.
like this?
Yeah.
Now he's a Dragon Ball.
All right, I'm gonna have to figure something out. I think there's some ideas here. I'm not sure we've found it yet. Here, eyebrow piercing. No.
Do the bridge across the
Yeah, that always looks cool.
Well, depends on the time period it's around, right?
What if, let's, yeah, I think it's time period, and I think it's also what he's about. Like, I think, let's concentrate around the mouth area, since that's what he's about. We've kind of made him about that. Why don't we do something that kind of frames his mouth?
How about like this one? That would be
What about an upside down arm?
Like,
The sugar store.
almost like a muzzle or a rein or something like that. That kind of, that's two Silence of the Lambs. Wait, not a Silence of the Lambs muzzle?
no, I mean like that.
Like,
Did you ever see the movie?
outside of the muzzle.
Did you ever see the movie E.T. the Killer?
E.T. the Killer.
Jeff, you know, but the
E.T. or E.T.?
one of the characters, he had a dirty
The
smile with
piercings
his
are
mouth was
attached to
split
the
open on the other side.
Piercings.
He had
Like
these,
if you have a rib,
these
you know,
rings
kind of
that
like
held
those
the cuts
hand
together.
ribbons, they like it's like one, you know, we got the stamp on.
And like,
Uh,
yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah,
right?
just like that.
Kind of
Think.
like the way that the old trousers.
I think so. Like they go underneath the muscle or something.
Yeah, they will go in, yeah, on the skin, but they will, just the
Oh,
thing will be on your face.
sure.
Me, yeah, I kind of like the idea of framing his mouth with this thing, and it also, if you look at these lines, they kind of point to his mouth. They point to,
The composition, so
right.
your eye around.
It's not. I think there's a cool idea about it. I think that's what was missing from the other ones, but I'm not yet sold that it looks great. It's definitely covering up his scar, which I don't think is cool.
Without piercing, that is like,
Is it a tangent where they connect right there?
Yeah.
What if he had like some sort of piercing on his cheek where a chain comes out of his mouth from? You mean from inside his mouth, not out of his mouth?
just like a hole in his cheek.
Yeah.
Like a bear trap collar.
Oh,
I could actually. His design can go all the way down to his.
yeah, like that movie Truth Dare. The guy would take a puff of cigarette and blow it out his cheek. You should see that movie, guys. It's weird. You know, I-C-H-I. Like it's Japanese for one.
Two of them had it.
Yeah.
No, it's live action.
It's a little weird.
Yeah. He's a killer.
I wonder if that can connect to something down here.
Watch me learn.
Bring the collar back down.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like something I can hold his face and bend and like hook to his neck or something.
Going into like dominant.
Yeah, that's a problem. It could be simple. Be like something like that.
Give him a pipe. It's like a smile. And a can of spinach.
All right, so I'm losing it. I'm not really something kind of.
Maybe it just hugs the jawline instead of like actually connecting the mouth.
What if?
It kind of comes up and grabs him in the jawline, maybe.
It's like a commercial or skin off.
Like shit.
Like down here?
I mean, almost like a clap from the neck, like his mouth shut. Spidey out like into the jawline.
So if this is the jawline.
Right. It's like kind of like hooks into the jaw, you know?
Oh.
And then.
Someone's up to they need a plan.
It also
Yeah.
keeps it in place.
Let me something about the lines. Alright, I'm not against it, I just need to explore it more. So I think there's something here. Yeah, it does. That's the thing.
Does it totally look like fish wire? Maybe does it have
Let me do this. I'll take a break from it and come back to it. We'll I think this is kind of cool, or something there, and then I'll come back to the actual design of his face and how that thing works. Oh, what service? Right. Yeah, it's definitely going to have, which is another good point too. Like when you're designing, you want to have different surface materials just so they pop from each other. They gives another layer, so it's not all skin and cloth. But I think we got something here. I'm just not sure yet about what would be cool. So. Like this? A chin girdle. A chin strap.
Maybe going up around his ears then.
Like that? Give him like a helmet too with a visor. Alright. So let me the neck thing? Okay, cool. I'll keep the neck thing. At least we got one place. Let me go off on a small tangent on presentation, since this is going to be kind of integral to making a sellable character design. I'm going to flatten that, and then I'm going to have my cloud brush. This is like the most awesome brush ever. Basically, you can paint pretty good looking clouds. So if you notice, I didn't use it on the Minotaur one, but because I learned about it afterwards. But just framing. What's that? Oh yeah, you guys can have the brushes. Some people were like, "Oh, it's mine. It's intimate part of me. I don't care. Keep it. Do whatever you want." It's actually cooler when you create your own, but some people don't care. You can just save them here. I think save your brushes. Yeah. Oh, I mean, however you want to, yeah, do it. You can take it off after I'm done. Whatever. Yeah, and frame the piece nicely, you know. So.
Now it's like his graduation photo.
Yeah. Hey. I think I'm gonna drop back some of it to. I'm not sure. Like I want to. Oh, I think it's probably the unfinished aspect of it.